win yourself some cash. All right, we are so excited to have Peter Schrager from NFL Network back with us today. Schrags, we're going to put you to work today. And of course, remember, you can catch all the coverage on NFL Network for the draft starting on Thursday. Let's get to some draft guides here. Get everybody involved. We're talking biggest need, quiet need, and not a need for each of these teams. Dan, we're going to start with you. What are you going with? I'm going with the Chicago Bears. I think their biggest need is going to be hope. Everyone continues to say that they need a quarterback. Sure, that sounds great, but you better hope that one of them jokers fall to you or fall somewhere near you can go up and get him. I don't think you can consider, okay, we're going to just wait till the second round and develop a guy. You should hope that a Mac Jones or a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance falls and you can go get a quarterback. Quiet need is offensive line. They need to continue to rebuild this offensive line because everyone talks about the run game or the lack of development with their quarterbacks. Well, it's tough to do without people blocking for that run game or protecting that quarterback. And that's why tailback is not a need for this football team. David Montgomery is a good player. If you give him some space and some big bodies in front to give him some opportunities to create positive yardage in your run game, Matt Nagy can rely on that a little bit. Biggest need, hope. Quiet need, O-line. Not a need, tailback.
All right, now to the very opposite end of the spectrum. We go to Buffalo, one of the deepest rosters in the NFL. That said, they still do have needs, and the biggest one for me is edge rusher. Look, Jerry Hughes has one of the most underrated careers in the NFL. But he's turning 34. Mari Addison's turning 33. They could use another pass rusher. Meanwhile, at cornerback, of course, you got Trey White. Opposite him, Levi Wallace is on a one-year deal. To me, that's another area that Buffalo could look to bolster perhaps later in the draft, looking towards the future. Finally, what they don't need, well, they don't really need a lot, but they really don't need safeties because the Buffalo Bills have arguably the best safety duo in the NFL in Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. Do not need to draft a safety. You could also add wide receiver, offensive line, quarterback, yada, yada. The Bills have it really good.
Listen, I'm going Cowboys, and I know cliche, Marcus on the Cowboys, but the bottom line is the need is cornerback. And we're talking about Surtain. Obviously, that's been the name, but be careful. Watch out for Farley making a late push. A quiet need, offensive tackle. Tyron Smith in his 10th year dealt with a lot of injuries. You may want to solidify or find a guy that you can use as a swing tackle in the situation that they were in last year with injuries. And not a need, damn tight end, okay? I don't want to hear it from anybody. All of these offensive weapons that the Dallas Cowboys have, nobody needs to add any more offensive weapons until later in this draft. Get the needs.
Boom!
Hey there, I'm going to go with Washington. First of all, Orlovsky, biggest need is hope. Can't mock draft the word hope, all right? Let's go with the Washington football team. We're going with quarterback. This is what you could have said, Dan. Go and get your quarterback. If you're Chicago, go and get one. Trade up if you have to. That is what I think Washington might want to do. Quiet need, offensive line. And I look at this guy right here, locally in Blacksburg, Virginia. Christian Darrisaw could be sitting there at 19. It could be a nice addition to Washington. And what they don't need, Mina said, Buffalo has the best safety duo. I think Washington might have the best pass rushing duo with Montez Sweat and Chase Young. There might be some really nice value at defensive end here. Don't take them, Washington. You don't need it. Go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's really interesting because if you look at these teams, I think when you're talking about what they actually need and don't need, a lot of it has to do with the division that they're in and how they can compete. So Washington's in a division where they really can compete, could win the division. Is their biggest need, do you agree, is it quarterback, Dan?
No, and welcome. We're going to baptize you a little here, Schrager. Welcome. We're going to bring you, because we chop it up on NFL. No. They need to go get offensive line help. If you look at their general manager, Martin Mayhew, I was with Martin in Detroit. He went from Detroit and he's been in San Francisco for the last 4 years. If you look at his track record when it comes to first round drafting, it is big after big after big after big. I think he's used 3 of his first round selections on non-offensive or defensive linemen. One was Matthew Stafford, I think Javid Best, and then Eric Ebron, okay? If you look at his past 4 years in San Francisco, it's Mike McGlinchey, it's Nick Bosa. They are going to take an offensive lineman. Ryan Fitzpatrick going to be plenty good enough. They don't need wide receiver. They don't need tailback. Look at this. Look at these offensive linemen. Laken Tomlinson, Sue, Ezekiel Ansah, Gosder Churlis, Nick Farley, Riley Reef. Again, that's not even adding in those San Francisco 49ers. Martin Mayhew believes in building football teams the inside-out way. At the line of scrimmage, it's kind of been a mantra of mine this offseason. They do not need to be overly aggressive to go get the 5th-ranked quarterback in this draft, okay? Not all 5 of these guys are going to be great. So they build their offensive line, let Fitzy play. Their skill players are better than people think. They got Humphreys. They got Harmon coming back healthy. Both Sims guys. They got McLaurin. They just signed Curtis Samuel. If you tell me a pass-catching threat, I'll give you tight end. I'll give you tight end at some point, but get your offensive lineman.
Yeah, Dan, I agree with you. And I think even if Martin Mayhew didn't have the history of building inside out, any human being could look at that roster and say the biggest hole is left tackle. Like, you don't have to be a GM or a wannabe GM to see that. It's been an issue for them ever since Trent Williams walked out the door. And it's going to be an issue when they do go get their quarterback next year. I mean, this team's made it pretty clear that they're not interested in reaching for a QB. They didn't even go to Trey Lance's pro day or his second pro day, if I'm correct. I think they would have done their due diligence if they were exploring the idea of a trade up. And you know what? That's fine because they're still going to win a lot of games with Ryan Fitzpatrick. They can get this roster in really good shape. It's already in great shape to get their quarterback next year instead of getting in the race this year. My only issue with offensive tackle is the way I see it. You know, you got Penei Sewell and Sean Slater and then a fairly sizable drop-off. And unfortunately, there's a lot of teams that need left tackles. It's not just Washington or Indy after them. It's the Vikings. It's the Chargers. So they may have to consider the possibility of jumping up a few spots if there's a left tackle in particular that they want.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I'm going to have to agree with Shrake here.
Huh?
Like, what?
Huh?
What?
Yeah, let's go, Marcus.
I'm with my crew. I'm with my crew. I'm going to have to agree with him. Listen, y'all, I understand the need for the offensive line.
Trader.
But if you got an offensive line and don't have a quarterback, you still doo-doo. Like, if they have a chance to get a guy or trade up to solidify their quarterback spot. Now, the question is that guy in this draft? That's the legit question. If he is, if Washington football teams feel like he is, they should try to move to get the quarterback. I would tell you this. I'm going to get Joe Burrow, and then I'm going to build an offensive line. And I know what the report is going to be. Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow got injured because you don't have an offensive line. But you know what Cincinnati got now? A quarterback. Now they can start building around that. I would go QB if they identify one and can move up to get him.
My favorite thing about that,
I had to agree with Shrake against my squad.
The best part about that whole segment was that Shrakes, I can see you, and he's like waving. He's like, can I get back in? Sorry, we are going back to you soon, though, Shrakes. You're coming back with us a little later on. We got to move right here, though. Don't you worry. You got the big swagoo on your side, so that's good. Coming up, the Falcons have plenty of options with that number 4 pick. With an aging Matt Ryan at quarterback, will Atlanta pick his replacement? Should they choose Kyle Pitts?